Sorry, yes, I will do that. Welcome for us. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this session with Hendrik and myself from the School of Financial Planning Law. Hendrik developed this financial coaching program, and we've been working together now for about 2 years now. And it's a very exciting program. It just goes from strength to strength. He has developed it into an online system, which is now very exciting. It's got animations. You can do it at your own time. And we're just very excited about it. And there's also a big need for it in the industry, because that's the new buzzword, is financial coaching. We are all, both of us are very passionate about it. So thank you, Hendrik, for organizing this. And I hope all of the participants would find some value from this. And please feel free to ask any questions. I will facilitate the process, and just pop your question in the chat box. I have a few questions that I'm going to ask Hendrik, so that it can give you more background to the program and what you can expect. But if you have your own questions, please feel free to ask. Okay.
So yeah, from my side, also thanks, Liezel, and welcome to everybody. And yeah, we are a small group, so you can even put on your cameras and we can have one big roundtable discussion also, because I think, like Liezel said, we structured some questions just to try and cover parts or the most important parts of the program. And yeah, so you're more than welcome also to join in on the conversation, because we're really a small group, and we really value your time that you took to spend this time with us this afternoon.
So are we ready to start?
Yeah, we can start.
Okay.
Thanks, Liezel.
So the first question is, why would you say, or what makes financial coaching so crucial as part of the advice process?
Yeah, I think that's most probably a ongoing discussion and conversation we're having in the industry, because one can say, is financial coaching really necessary? Isn't it perhaps a little bit of fluff? However, if perhaps we must just stand back a little bit, Liezel, and just think about the advice process. And I think the other day I reverted back to the client experience book that was written a few years back. And what was interesting for me when I looked at that, they defined the different value propositions for customers, and it talked so much to our industry. You know, the basic level of engagement with customers speaks to, we are selling to their fear. And I think that was the old sales model we had in terms of our industry. The second level is talking to selling goods, and goods is defined by you sell on price or return. And that again speaks to our industry, where I see so many times when I engage with advisors in terms of practice management, is the core value proposition is, and I see it in our practice also, especially junior advisors coming in, is that they want to compete on price and on return. So, but the challenge you have got there is, as soon as the next financial advisor comes by, then the poor client is most probably going to switch again to the next product or the next promised big return. And then we evolved, and there you as a school played a huge role in terms of CFP and the journey of CFP and our industry becoming professional, where we started selling advice and expert advice, where we actually take up a role as a consultant, we can say, and we're selling the value of a financial plan to a client. However, I see coaching in terms of evolving into the next part of financial planning, and that's really where we put the customer at the center. Instead of pushing our advice, we listen to the customer's story, and it also talks to life-centered financial planning, and we call it purpose-driven financial planning in terms of our program, where we talk to the customer's needs, and saying, how can we journey with the customer so that the customer can make the best of their resources to live the most or the best possible life with the resources they have. And I think that's a little bit intangible in terms of the customer must first experience that value proposition. However, the customer's agenda is the most important part, and we also empower the customer to be at the top of their own plan and in the game for themselves. So I think that's the principle of financial coaching, is taking our value proposition to the next level in terms of financial advisors and planners, Liezel.
Thank you, Hendrik. Related to that, obviously the industry is moving forward. We're not salesmen. We want to be more of a person with expertise who is paid for their expertise. So where would you think, or where would you say, where in the process falls financial coaching, of the financial planning process?
Yeah, so I think again, it talks core to our value proposition that we position towards clients. And Brad Klotz and them in the United States, they developed what they called integral financial planning. And I think their model for me shows and defines that perfectly, because they talk about internal financial planning and external financial planning. And internal is that part where we talk to the client's behavior. We listen to what is the client's story. We help them to understand what is the stories that they live by, and how does that influence their way of engaging in terms of their finances. And on the other side is then external, is what we traditionally did as financial planners. And I think that's part of the problem. When we get trained in terms of, if we look at agencies, we get trained in terms of compliance and product. And then we get trained in terms of technical skills, but nowhere we actually get to the point of bringing that internal and external together. So we end up either as great salesmen, or we end up as experts in our field. And none of that is bad for the industry as such, because clients needs the solutions. However, I think it's just so much better if you can work with the client story, work with that internal, because that's also, if we go and look, why doesn't clients take up the advice and stay in the market, is exactly to that point, because we don't talk to their behavior and speak to that internal part of the financial planning process, Liezel.
Hendrik, yes, I think the most important thing that I get from that is, obviously you start from the beginning. You listen to your client, and you start from where they are. And just like a fitness coach, a financial coach should teach you, in a sense, how to do it further on their own, and to see certain things in their behavior and their attitudes that might be hampering themselves. So in terms of this program, what is the structure of the program?
So, Liezel, I just for the moment want to jump back to your answer, or your summary of the first question, and I think what I see, and I want to give an example of what you saying there. The other day, I was in conversation with a senior person that's already in the retirement. Had the initial need of the client was, look at my portfolio. I'm not happy with the performance. And however, when we looked at the client's portfolio and we started the discussion, it was the core of the problem was actually overspending in terms of the monthly expenditure. And when we drill down into that expenditure, a large portion of that money was actually spent on the kids, and more so on the grandkids. And then we went further into the discussion, and we actually, out of the discussion, it came that the client was seeing spending money on the grandkids is having time with the grandkids. And by that, he was actually buying expensive gifts. But when we worked with that furthermore, we actually saw that in terms of the discussion we had, that spending time with the kids, another strategy could be, without spending money, it could be playing board games with the kids, telling them stories of his childhood, etc. And by seeing that and changing that, we actually solved his total problem, and the returns on the investment was no longer actually part of the discussion. So I think that's the benefit of financial coaching as part of the process. Yes.
I think that's where that conversation skills that you teach in this program becomes so important, because if without that listening skills and that conversation skills, you wouldn't have realized that, and he wouldn't have realized that. So I think that is, I think, one of the things that we can take away from that explanation from you.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
obviously, if you start from the beginning with a client and you listen to them, we know from the industry that we're in, where you are most successful is when you have long-term relationships with your clients. And this is a place to start those relationships and make them very strong, and also build loyalty towards those clients. Okay, so are you ready now to talk about the program itself?
Yeah, so I think I actually want to share a short video which most probably will give us or give everybody an overview of the structure of our program. It's like a minute, but I think it gives a good overview, Liezel.
Many desire wealth and riches, but few wishes for financial wisdom to manage their means. Trust me, I should know, as I am Ray, the coin master of Buhaira, an underwater djinn city. And yes, I'm a genie, but I'm not here to grant you 3 wishes. I'm here to escort you through a 12-week journey. It will all begin at the Orange River in South Africa, at the heart of the Lesotho Mountains. We'll climb mountains, snake through golden grass fields, jump over rapids, concluding our journey where the river flows into the sea. Through this journey, you will acquire a wealth of knowledge and skills. They will enable you, as a planner, to help your clients with their finances. There will be an open forum to discuss how to apply the learning practically, as well as an assignment to practice the knowledge obtained throughout the week. In some modules, additional content, tools, and templates will be supplied to enrich your newly gained knowledge and skills. After completing each week's activities, you will earn a badge. You must earn 12 badges to complete this course and earn a certificate. Each of the badges will be a summary of the knowledge acquired during the week's activities. Do not fear. You will not be without a mentor, as my well-acquainted human colleagues, Ilis and Coach Sawubona, will share their experience with you and 2 planners, Wade and Nolwandle. There is Sawubona busy sharing his wealth of knowledge with Nolwandle and Wade.
If we then listen to our coaches that we employed to be part of this journey, we then structured the program in such a way that you will have over a 12-week period, you will have we storified the basic content and philosophy behind financial coaching, so that one can relate that back to practice. And then what we learned out of our first initial 3-day coaching programs was that financial planners really enjoyed the 3-day interaction face-to-face, but the challenge was that after the sessions, it was like chasing a dog chasing a car, and then the car stops and you don't know what to do with this new acquired skills, because what then happens is, how do I make this part of my financial coaching practice? The second part is, it's the first time that I engage with coaching material, although a lot of it is basic skills that some of us have learned over the years. If you looked at the product about the structure, is about listening, questioning, but how do I do this differently? How do I start a conversation around the client's behavior, and what is their money patterns, and how do they think about money, and what is their relationship with money, and what is their values, and how does their values impact in terms of how they make financial decisions? So we then structured 12 1.5-hour Zoom sessions or Blackboard sessions, where we then engage in conversation with the group of planners. We also believe, and we learned along the way, we keep the groups small, because the actual learning actually happens in the conversations we're having on a weekly basis, because there's great learning in terms of the material, the reflections, you're going to apply it a little bit in your practice, but learning from each other, how do you implement this in your practice is the big learning. And then due to the fact that you're getting it in small chunks, you can actually go and play with it in the week, and we come back and we reflect on that, and we say, okay, how do we apply it? You also get time in those sessions to coach each other, and actually the tools we give you, you can apply that and play with that in terms of the session, and you can then see, gee, this works for me, and I'm going to apply it in terms of my practice. So the second part of the program is then structured in a way that around about week 10, you actually have your coaching conversations, and we give you feedback on that. And then the last 2 weeks, we actually spend time a little bit on behavior finance. And then the last week, we actually spend time on how do you integrate this into your practice. So you also get an opportunity to think a little bit about practice management, and what is your value proposition, and how will coaching influence your value proposition, and how do we link that all together. So you can actually say you've got the benefit of 12 weeks of coaching training, thinking about financial planning as part of that process. Like I said earlier, we've developed a financial planning process, which we call the purpose-driven financial planning process, which supports that the whole integration process. And you've also got time to reflect on, what technology do you use in your practice? How can you integrate with this? And that then forms the journey of 12 weeks. So yeah, thanks, Liezel.
Thank you, Hendrik. Yeah, I can testify to that, because we went to Johannesburg and had two groups, one in Johannesburg and one in Bloemfontein, and the people were in a different venue, but they were there for 4 days, and it was full on. So they had to go back to their lives after that week. They were tired because it was emotionally tiring for them, because they learned so much, but also they were trying to catch up after that week. I think this program is wonderfully done, the online program, because you have now small parts that you can learn over those 12 weeks. You can take your time at your own time, and the learning is much better in those situations. So in terms of that, can you just tell us what are the topics that's going to be covered in the program?
So we start off initially with, where does financial coaching fit in? Then our basis for the financial coaching program is then ontological coaching, which speaks to the being, or to the being of a human being, and how we each are unique, and with unique ideas and ways of looking at the world. And then we start building from there in terms of what is the principles of that we use for the financial coaching. And I think as part of ontological coaching, perhaps to give a little bit of background, my own history is I started off with NLP, then I did the PCC at UCT. I'm still part of New Ventures West and Integral Coach and the Integral Coaching model. Then I did Conscious Embodiment with Wendy Palmer. I did the Enneagram, and a few other, narrative coaching with Shanae Swart, and also neuroscience coaching success. And when I started looking at where do one look at a program that speaks the language of financial planners, that make it easy, I think ontological coaching fits that super in the middle, spot on. And it also talks to the integral, the internal, external financial planning I talked about earlier, because ontological coaching speaks to first order learning, which speaks to the processes and systems we've got, because processes and systems talks to, we give a client a financial plan, we give a client a budget calculator, we give the tools to the client, But however, if you don't change in terms of second order learning, where you actually change the way of being or the attitude of the client towards their finances and towards the world, if you don't change that, then you will battle to get a client to actually engage in terms of using the tools and the financial plan that you give the client. So how do you then change the client's attitude to the world is then speaking to their language. So that is how they listen and how they use language, their moods. So how do they look at the world in terms from emotions? Because moods is our predisposition for action. Language create our world that we live in. And then what is the energy that we carry in our bodies that drive that? And we then teach you in terms of the program those basics skills so that you can apply it. And then on the other side, we then look at the 6, 7 step or how many steps you want to add to the financial planning process. And we then say, how do we integrate this financial coaching model into that? We then in week 11, we then also unpack the whole thing about behavior finances, risk assessments. Why do clients want to switch out of the market? Why do we as financial advisors sometimes want to switch our clients out of the market? What is that behavior that drives that? So that high level, Liezel, is the structure or the content then supporting our program.
So listening to that, it's very much soft skills that is taught. And I'm seeing from the names, it's quite all men here. So I hope they're not scared of those soft skills that's being taught. But how can you register for this course?
So on the UFS School for Financial Planning Laws website, all the registration documents is there, and Evelyn with her friendly personality will help anybody to quickly get through the process. It's luckily much easier to apply than for a life policy. It's just one single form that I need to be completed, and yeah, then you're ready and you can go on.
Can you tell us when the next program starts?
So 11 January is the next program, and we filling up quickly. And like I said, we like to keep groups small. So if you still want to register, please talk to Evelyn, or if you want to send me directly and I can then coordinate that back to Evelyn, also, you're more than welcome. So yeah.
Okay, now for the difficult one. What does it cost?
It's a steal for 12 weeks for everything that you get. I think you won't get such a bargain. 9,900 Rand. And actually, if you think about it, Liezel, I was thinking, and we've now had 2 groups through the online training process, and it's so rich, even for me as facilitator, is the learnings I get from everybody, because in each group we had from tied agents to IFAs to people that works at private pension funds. That's part of it. We even had group customer experience people from one of the large insurance companies that attended the course. So the learning is so diverse and rich. So if you think about it, you get all the content, you get all the templates, and then you get 12 times 1.5 hour group coaching sessions, that all for 9,900 Rand. I think we're actually too cheap. We must put up the price, Liezel. So yeah, but yeah, I think we're so passionate about this that we really just want to get it out there. So yeah.
Hendrik, just like you just said, we had one pilot group that ran, and currently we're busy with our last or our real group. So obviously, if any of the participants here want to get some feedback from those students that actually run through the program already, maybe we can find some people who's willing to be contacted in terms of asking questions and not taking our word for it, but actually taking their word for it, and they've been through it and done it.
Yeah, no, for sure. I actually think all of the participants will be more than willing to give feedback. So if anybody wants feedback, they can just contact us or contact me. You can inbox me on LinkedIn or wherever, and I can get you in contact with some of the students to get feedback there. Yeah, and what we didn't say is as part of it, you also get 26 CPD points from the FBI. So that's
That's
also
almost all you need for the
yeah.
year.
Yeah, so I think it's really worthwhile. So, but it's my child, so you know, your child is always the best child. So
Exactly. So that's why I don't want them to take your word for it, but take
yeah,
someone else's word for it as well.
for
So
sure.
can you call yourself a financial coach after this course?
Yeah, so interesting. Coaching as such is not regulated in the South African context. It's like in America, therapy is not regulated. So the Financial Therapy Association, all of their practitioners can call them financial therapy practitioners, where in South Africa, coaching as such is not regulated. So there's nothing that stops you from calling yourself a financial coach. I see there's even companies currently calling them financial coaches, where I know for a fact they didn't even do coach training, but I think that's a little bit nearly unethical. But yeah.
What would you say happens next after completion of the course?
Yeah, so I think from our side we actually thought about that, and we said we created this wonderful content, and really the financial planners is enjoying the journey. However, how do we create a community? And we started a community, which is the Financial Coaching South Africa, where you can then become part of. We don't charge for that. It's just where we as a group share with each other content. We've got different specialists that's also part of that um, group, where we share content with each other, which we pick up in the industry, which we share with each other so that we can keep learning from each other. And we also share new things that we are creating. And then secondly, even for the people currently on the call, we've also got once a month, every last Friday of the month, we've got a free coaching conversation, where we've already got a large group of people, and also diverse. We've got from the head of one of the insurance companies, head of distribution, to financial coaches that just work on fees, which then financial coaches that just do financial coaching and no product implementation, to tied agents, to IFAs, which is part of that discussion. And you pop in whenever you can on that last Friday. And we the structure of that hour is more or less we'll share some other model which complement and financial coaching, and it's not always linked to ontological coaching. For instance, the last month, we covered the whole thing of narrative theory, and how you can integrate that into your discussion with your client. So we then cover such a topic, and then we've got a general discussion, which is interesting. One of the normal discussions each month is a portion of the time going to how do I integrate this as a part of my value proposition, because I'm now spending more time with my client. So how do I start charging fees? And that's where somebody like the people that's already in financial coaching and charging fees can then or share their practices with the rest of the financial planners. And there's rich learning between that, because we can then actually learn from each other. So yeah, so that's a structure we put in place to support that. And then I think due to the innovation there at Financial Planning Law, we are working on a few programs that will short programs that will add to the financial coaching program. And we also working on a surprise, which will then we at this point will not say what, although it's on my tongue to say that will enable you to walk the journey of financial coaching further, and being accredited with the international bodies in terms of coaching. So we also working on some fun stuff to add to the process as we go further. So yeah.
So just like you mentioned, it's not going to be a relationship building or teaching how to do relationship building as part of the process for your clients, but also a form of networking and building closer relationships with other financial coaches or financial planners. And the word that you said there, the last sentence was fun. You made this course very fun. As you could have seen from the animation. So it's nice that we've learned, or I've also learned, that gamification is the way to go. If it's fun, it's not going to be a chore to do. So I think that is where we're going with the School of Financial Planning Law as well. Now, in terms of the presenting of this, it's open for any financial planner who's interested in financial coaching or paraplanners. Anyone that is interested and has a background to financial planning, but obviously it can also be presented to big financial institutions that's focused on the specific company, and we can also customize it. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah. So, Liezel, we are open for that. Especially within the larger networks. We've got a few discussions on the go. The weekly conversations we can then tailor so that fits into your financial philosophy, because the thing about financial coaching, it's not product or process, it's product or process agnostic, so it doesn't matter. So how do we fit that conversations then into a financial coaching or into a financial planning framework? And the important thing is, just from our experience to this point is, the financial planning framework must be open to being client-centristic and not product-centristic. I think that's the big challenge, but that's the fun to engage with a large company, to get them to understand that they'll still sell their products if they go through this route, and actually perhaps sell more products. But it's all about the client, and first understanding the client. So secondly, we open also, like you say, to if there's smaller networks or groups of planners that come together and wants us to present, form a unique group, which is, if you group of planners in Bloemfontein that wants to come together, or one of the larger corporates currently discussing with us, they want to bring they self-organizing a group of planners to attend the course, and we'll present it then for that group, as long as we've just got enough planners attending the course. So yeah, so we're totally open to tailor the program or present it to a unique group of people. So yes, Liezel.
Thank you, Hendrik. I've got a question from Becky Temba. Is there a formal qualification advisors get with this program? Can you share more to that, or can you talk more to the content and the material that the participants get? And the question I think that you are really asking is, he wants to know a little bit more about the ontological approach.
Yeah. So the learners get, and now Liezel, you must help me with the term here, get a certificate of completion from the Free State University on completion, as well as if they attended all the sessions, which we log on Blackboard, they'll then also get the CPD certificate, which is a separate certificate from the program certificate. So that's speaking to those two. And then in terms of Becky, the UCT or integral coaching model, if we look at the base of integral coaching, it speaks then to how do I dream and think? What is my purpose, my meaning as an individual? How do I integrate with the we, my relationship with people? That also includes my history. Where do I come from? How do I think about the world and that engagement? And then it talks to the it, which is processes, which talks about the environment. How will that influence my engagement with the world? And then the it's is, how do I integrate in terms of a person? And that you can also say that's the results that you get, a culmination of the three. And it also speaks from specific the UCT process, the new ventures process, also speak to how do I embody it? So how do I live it? What is the energy? How do I look after myself? The it as such, where Ken Wilber's model differs a little bit. It talks more about the results you get there. However, it depends on what level you go into the New Ventures West and UCT process. If you go on the ACC level, that's most probably your frame of mind. If you go on PCC, they also integrated ontological in terms of level 1 and 2 learning, and that's where it becomes interesting, because it is to a large extent where ontological, I will say, differ from integral, is that in terms of integral, you can land up that I, we, it process becomes a manual first order process. So nearly like I take your financial detail, I give a financial plan back to you. I ask you, what is your values? I ask for you, what is your relationships? I ask for you, what is your processes that you put in place, which is very powerful. It's far better than not asking that questions to a client. But from an ontological perspective, it's then to say, what is the language that you use? What is the mood that you have? And how do you engage with the world? And for me, I initially, when I started building this program, I initially came from an integral point of view. But what I found when we engage with a client, thinking of I, we, it, that we sometimes then forget to listen to that language that the client is using, to the mood, and that's very powerful in terms of really getting change, is that substance that you get through working with the client's way of being in terms of the process. And yeah, I think the other big thing of this program, and that I would say would also be for the UCT program, but I think the big thing is, how do you as a person, and how do I as a person, as a facilitator, nearly every time that I engage with the material, I also get to look in the mirror and think about my own way of being, and how do I engage with the world. So Alan Sealer sometimes reflects to it, and he says, we don't work with the material work with us. So yeah, I think that, Becky, if that answers you. So yeah.
Thank you, Hendrik, and thank you, Becky. I just want to open the floor to anyone who has additional questions, who aren't sure about anything. I think I've asked all the questions that I have, so please feel free to ask anything. You don't have to put it in the chat box.
Yeah, I invite you, put your cameras on, and let's just have a 5-minute perhaps discussion on any questions that you've got. Or if you don't want to put on your camera, you can just ask the questions.
Okay, so Hendrik, I don't think anyone has any questions. You're welcome to email me or Hendrik anyway to ask any questions if you're interested in this course. And I think, Hendrik, you will send this recording to everyone as well as to the people who could not attend. And please feel free to send this on to anyone else that you think might be interested. We are open, or we will answer emails anytime. You're welcome to phone as well. But thank you for everyone who attended, and thank you, Hendrik, for your time and explaining everything so well.
Thank you very much, Liezel, and thank you very much for everybody that joined. En baie dankie vir al die Bloemfontein adviseurs wat ingeskakel het. Ons waardeer dit regtig baie. Thanks a mil.